who don't have it. Young, black, and gifted, talking the whole package. Magic, magic, lights, camera, action. You are now witnessing the power of black magic. Black magic. You are now witnessing the power of black magic.
G'day guys, how's it going? I hope you're all well. In this video, I'm going to be looking at a couple of matches that I had with a random player online that I got matched with in LazerGrrl. The reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to be analysing how they play. Basically, I'm going to be looking at what was good, what was bad, and a couple of different tips here and there that I would suggest for any new players. This isn't having a dig at the player at all, it's just a couple of tips that I've got. Let's have a bit of a look. It's going to be slowed down a bit just so it's easier to commentate. As you'll see with most of these matches, I'll pretty much start with your basic opening, trying to build the gen at the top by placing a wall and then a gen, and then I'll build the bottom one. So the other player has built the top one first, which is good. Starting now to build the bottom one, which is awesome. Perfect start so far. Next, usually you want to go mid. So they're opting to go for a gen first, which is fine. In this case, they're actually waiting here for enough energy to be able to get a laser to then put that in mid. Sometimes that can be fine, but what will happen is, as you can see, I'm already on my way back. If I was to pick up a wall, I would nearly be able to get back to this place in time to either get a wall here to prevent the other player from putting anything there, or I would trade that with their laser. That would really disrupt their eco, but as well as that, if I manage to get this spot, I pretty much win mid. This is why you usually want to start the match in mid with these walls here instead. That way the spots are secure and you haven't used too much income. So I was nice and opted to let them put that there, which they eventually do. And again, because they're going for the early aggression in mid, I'm going to make sure I put a gen and my laser there quick enough so that they don't destroy anything. So they're now going for the bottom gen and wall, which is good. Bit of a desync there, but that's alright. Now, this is a pretty big mistake. A super laser in mid can be good, but as you can see, it needs 3 energy to be able to power. This one currently only has 2. You want to have this, or your super laser, fully connected either to your base, so it can start taking energy out of here, or it needs 3 energy to be able to operate. Bit of a mistake here, but that's alright. You can see here now that they're possibly trying to connect 3 gens to be able to get a super here, or trying to connect in the top lane to be able to get a super here because I'm starting to destroy their bottom lane. But what you can see here is I have pretty much most of my foundations set up and I've got mid contested, so that's fine. I've got aggression on the bottom lane, which means I'm going to destroy this gen here, which is obviously no good. But then it's immediately going to attack their resource here. This is why you definitely want to get a laser in this spot here, so that you can start contesting the opponent's basically bottom lane. And then you want to do the same thing with this top lane here, is you want to get lasers in these spots here and this spot here, so that way you can start building your infrastructure. The player's seen that I was able to destroy their first gen, so they've decided now to put a laser here, so that way this back gen doesn't get destroyed. That is good to kind of contest my laser, but the problem is, this laser requires 1 energy, and it's basically using this gen here. This whole basically defense system here isn't doing anything, it's not beneficial. If you were to get rid of these blocks completely, it would do the exact same thing as if they had them both there. The better thing to do in this stage, because I haven't pushed any of this up further, is to get your gen here and your laser here. That way you can still contest this and fire, but you've still got this gen space free to get income. So you want to take both of these and basically put them here. They'll have to move this block out of the way, but that's fine. They've done the right thing on the top lane now. They've put their laser here, so they're contested, which is perfect. Again, I said you can usually put these two forward, but if you have enough energy in your base, you can put a second laser here to make a super laser to then start to counter back, which can be a good option as well. Otherwise, you basically now want to go through and have each of your lanes connected to your base, which is what I've just fully set up. So basically everything that I've got set up here is how you want to start your match off. So you can see I've got top, middle and bottom lane. And if I wanted to at this stage, I could push further on the bottom lane because there's a gen spot here. So all I'd have to do is move this laser forward, put a gen behind it, and then I would have 3 income. Okay, so the other player has fully connected the top to their base, which is awesome. So now they're going to want to super somewhere, but they're really low on energy as well. So excellent work by the other player there. They've finally gone through, put a gen there and put a laser there. That is exactly what I wanted them to do, but the problem is they did go through a laser, take some damage. So it would have been better just to move this block out of the way so they could have just navigated everything above. In this position here, this mid super is a pretty good idea. Now that it's fully connected to base and this bottom lane is actually protected by this laser, this is a really good play because now you're putting offense in mid and you can start to push through there. I decided to take this laser, move it out of the way because this is what they should be doing. So I wasn't going to try and disrupt this. If you're in my case and this happens, you pretty much want to start to replace definitely at least this laser with a wall because it has a lot more health than the laser. So it's going to be able to tank a lot more and it's going to be able to give you more time to do something else. That something else that you need to be doing, you either need to disconnect their super connection from their base. Like I had the laser there before, that would be completely fine because if you destroy either of these blocks, then this super can no longer fire. That's one good thing to do. The other thing is to try and disconnect their strong connection in the entire bottom lane, which means you'd need to put a super laser here, which is a good thing to do, or you can super laser at the top as well. They're pretty much the main offense that you need to do now. So I've swapped out that wall to give me a little bit more time. And this double connection is actually a pretty good method by the other player as well. Because if I did actually manage to destroy, say, either of these two blocks here, the super is still then connected to their base. It is good, but it does kind of box you off from being able to do anything. So we'll see what they do. They pretty much stood there and did nothing for the whole time. They are really kind of just waiting for anything in mid to break. But the problem is, when you break something in mid, all of this that you have here, the super lasers, you want to push these forwards. Or at least get your own block here. Because the reason why you super mid, or even super any of the lanes, is to gain more territory. After you super and destroy a block, you want to move all this forward to gain some more ground. Even though they're supering and destroying my blocks, if they can't get there to do anything, it's not beneficial at all. And they actually don't have any energy in their bank. I can pretty much continually stop this super laser with walls, basically forever. And they can't benefit from it at all. So that's another reason why you might not necessarily want both of these connected. Or go through and break one of the sides so that you can basically use space in mid. So as you can see here, I'm starting to destroy the super laser's connections to base, and the other player is trying to respond by continuing to basically strengthen its connections. Again, that's good to keep the super laser firing, but if you can't get in here to actually utilize any of this space that the super's created, then there's not really much point. You can see here now, this super laser doesn't actually have any connections to the base anymore. They could keep connecting it, but again, not suggested. So at this stage, I'm actually now going to start supering the bottom lane, because the top lane connection to base has pretty much been destroyed, and the bottom lane is the only one left. And by doing this, I can actually also get rid of most of their income. When you're supering a bottom lane, yes, it's kind of good to destroy everything here, but you do only want to super so far as to gain this energy spot and this laser spot. That way you can get another income instead of just your normal 2 here, while still having it protected by normal gens and lasers. Here's a good situation too, where they have actually broken everything here because I've gone and done something else, and it's starting to damage my base. It's good not to panic in this situation, and obviously don't walk into a super laser because that can do heaps of damage. But what you should do instead, because normally you want to get a wall to place in front of these lasers because they can take the most damage. But it's not beneficial at all to walk through, pick up a wall, and then place it. So in the meantime, just pick whatever side you're on, pick up that block, and place it in front of it. Yes, it does cost 5 energy, but that's going to be way better because you're going to have a lot more health at the end. And if you have energy in the base, it doesn't really matter. Once it's blocked, then you can go and pick up a wall and place it in front. And you might even be able to sell this for some more energy as well. So I just got 2 energy back, so it only costed me 3 to protect it. And again, in the meantime, whilst I've gone through and done everything I have so far, all this player is doing is connecting the super to base better. Just connecting it to base and having it continue firing is going to serve no purpose because you can't actually get in there to utilize it. And the damage that it does to a base is pretty much irrelevant because I can literally just fill each of these parts here with walls and they'll never get through. So as I've just done here, I've just placed 2 more walls and I could continue placing walls pretty much forever. And the super will never get through. And in the meantime, the other player is still losing this bottom lane. So you always want to be doing something. You don't want to just sit back and watch your opponent. So now I'm starting to super top as well. So I'm pretty much just leaving mid. All I'm doing is blocking it. And then supering somewhere else that's important. And at this stage, you can see, even though the other player wasn't losing energy, they weren't gaining energy either. So there wasn't actually anything that they could do to try and advance somewhere else. Mid is the most important in this game, but if it gets blocked and you lose everything else, then it's no good to you. There are lots of other things that I could do in this situation. I could do more offense. I could even contest a super in mid because I have enough energy. But for the moment, I'm pretty much just kind of letting the other player do what they want and try and make the right decisions. Which at this stage you've pretty much lost because you don't really have any energy in the bank and you're about to lose your 2 income gens. Pretty much lost at this stage. And what you can actually see is because I've now fully disconnected the super from middle, I can instead stop walling up and defending my mid lane and again replace it with a gen and a laser. So I basically have every single lane now and they don't really have any income now. So at this stage you've pretty much lost. It would be very hard to come back if the player was actually playing properly. The other thing too is in most matches it's usually a bit disrespectful to try and fully block your opponent in their base. Reason being is that the game does have exclusion zones, which means there's areas you and your opponent can't walk. So you can go up this far and place walls, but usually it's considered bad sportsmanship. In most cases it really won't matter. because typically the player doing that is the one losing, but still. Okay, so that was the first match. So, match number 2. Again, going for standard opening, as you should in pretty much every match. Top gen, wall and gen. Bottom gen, wall and gen. Now, I've decided to build top and bottom, as I've shown before, but one thing that the opponent's done, they are a little bit slower than I am, is they've decided to push a gen in mid first. This can be good for some early offense, but what you'll end up seeing happening is I have 2 income at the moment, so I'll start to get energy pretty quickly, whereas they only have 1. Even if they get early aggression in here, I can just use walls to block pretty much anything they do, but it'll take them ages to actually get energy to be able to really do anything properly. And as you can see, they've only just now been able to buy a laser, which is about how quick you'd be able to do it if you connected bottom. This stage they're pretty far behind, like all this is really going to do is a possibly small amount of damage. Unless you catch your opponent off guard, which is a possibility too. They've decided to put this laser here to either do some damage to me or the base, which is good. The problem is though, they've left this gap completely open. If I wanted to, I could put a block here as well, and because I've already got these 2 blocks here, that would pretty much guarantee me mid. So after they've put this laser here, maybe done a little bit of damage to me or the base, they really need to push it forward in front of here so they can start taking mid. So as you can see here, my mid laser is placed. So they really need to put that laser in front of the gen. Also too, if they don't do it quick enough, the gen will just die. Which is what happens. If you're in my shoes at this stage, you would pretty much want to take all of these 4 blocks here. Even if you only had some walls handy, you basically just want to fill them, because then you can switch them all out with gens and lasers and basically attack the base as much as you want. So this is why you want to definitely make sure you don't lose mid. Yeah. And they kind of realise this, that they've lost, so they just conceded that stage. So that was the second game, and now just on to the last one. So I'll keep this one at full speed. So basic opening, which they've done as well, which is good. Mid blocks. They've actually put 2 gens here in mid, because I usually don't take this mid spot. Now, this can be good, but the problem is they can't attack my mid spots here, because they'd have to replace this gen with a laser, which is fine. But because I don't have any lasers here, this gen actually doesn't have any threats at the moment. What the opponent could do is, if they had enough energy, they could place lasers on both sides of mids here. So that would actually be a fair bit of pressure, and I'd have to spend a little bit of time and resources to make sure I block them or make sure I don't take any damage from them, which is actually why I've preemptively placed both of these blocks here, thinking that the opponent, because they put 2 gens here, they might choose to push 2 lasers here. So there's one of their lasers. But as well as the time that it's taken them to use all of this energy and all of this income to buy all of these blocks, they haven't gone basically any of their other 2 lanes. No blocks here, no blocks here. In that time, I've managed to completely set up top, nearly connect it, and I already have my bottom spots safe. So they're going to lose this gen, which will be 1 income, and I'm also starting to set up mid. That means as soon as I put a laser here, all of this is going to be under fire. As soon as I place a laser here, they should replace this gen and this laser, so that mid's connected. Here, they have seen their first gen's been destroyed, but they decided to move the laser up, which is really good. And they did actually manage to connect this gen with these walls to continue this laser firing towards base. Now that's okay, but what you'll see here is, I'll put a laser here in bottom lane, which means this gen's going to be under fire. So the better option would have been to have this laser down here in this spot, so the bottom lane could be contested and the mid lane could be contested. So the bottom gen is destroyed. A good thing to note here, which is a little bit more advanced, is we have one gen with 2 lasers here. Because one gen has just been destroyed, which of these lasers will stop firing? It's a little bit hard to tell because it matters about the order the lasers were placed, and the gens, and which one was connected first. Now, because this laser was actually connected to this gen first before this one was placed, when this one loses energy from here, it will stop powering. So in this case, this one gets destroyed first. After they've realized that, this laser that they've picked up should go here. Like we saw in the first game, the opponent put the laser here, when really they should push the laser here and the gen here, so it can still contest it, but they can still get income. So, you can see they're hesitating because they want to put the gen here, but if they do, they know it'll be under fire. That is a good thing to do because you'll start getting income, because they currently don't have any income. But what you want to do is you want to at least put probably these 2 walls in front of it, so it can have some time to actually generate some income. If you just leave it, it'll only generate about 3 income before it dies, and it actually costs 5 to buy it. So you'll end up still just wasting it. So it's better to put those walls there and try and get some more income. Unfortunately now, that's game. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned a little bit. If you want to learn a little bit more about the game, then jump on over to my beginner's guide. I'll have a link to it in the description. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.